to give a chance for some projects and things to move forward. But we typically try and do these every few months. So this is kind of kicking it back off for the fall, and then we'll probably do another one in sometime in the winter. But just letting you all know, everyone upon entering is muted. This is just to kind of streamline the process and make sure that everyone can hear those of us who are presenting. And we will be holding all questions until the end of the presentations. Oh, I clicked on the wrong thing. There we go. So this is just kind of running through quickly on the agenda that we have for today. Doing some welcome and introductions, SMTC staff updates. This will be some of the projects that we're currently working on that are related to pedestrian and bicycle access. Then we'll ask some of our member agencies who have been kind enough to join us to give some updates on what they've been working on and progressing in this area. And then we have our full presentation, which is our pilot year community streets program project sponsors, which will be Frank Satera from Alchemical Nursery, Lee Kennard from Ed Smith PTO, and Nicole Watts of Hope Print. Then we'll open it up for Q&A and discussion. This will also include some of the questions that were asked as you registered. If you sent all those in, we will try and answer as many of them as we can, if we're able to. And then closing to kind of discuss when we might be doing another one and ask you guys for topic ideas so that we make sure that these forums are geared towards what people want to learn. Just a quick briefing on participant conduct. So all this information is up on our website, but really we just want to make sure that everyone is respectful of each other and of our member agencies and our presenters. They are all doing this out of the goodness of their hearts for us. So we really appreciate just having a respectful conversation throughout this forum. So jumping into our quick staff updates, or actually I should probably do the welcome and introductions. So my name's Tom Barnett. I'm a senior transportation planner with the SMTC. Joining me on this call from SMTC is Megan Vitale, our principal planner, Joey DiStefano, our transportation planner, and Andrew Frazier, who is also on here. He's our senior transportation analyst. Also joining us from our member agencies are Julie Baldwin from New York State DOT, Bren Dace from Centro, and Adriana Savage from County Health. We're hoping that someone from the city might be able to jump on. We heard from them that they might have a scheduling conflict, but we're hoping that they might be able to join us a little bit later. But moving to our staff updates and some of the projects that we've been working on here at the SMTC. We have a lot of different pedestrian and bicycle access studies that are currently ongoing. Right now, some of the things that we are wrapping up is the Brewerton Trail Feasibility Assessment. This is going to our policy and planning committees this month for acknowledgement of completion. And that really focused on identifying appropriate facilities and wayfinding for bicycle and pedestrian network to link outer neighborhoods and rural areas with Brewerton's waterfront and business district. This also includes a lot of historical sites in the Brewerton area, such as their lighthouse right on Oneida Lake. Staff identified an off-road trail route, which will lead right to the Micron site along a National Grid utility corridor. Discussions on how to progress that between Micron and National Grid are currently underway. The city sidewalk inventory over the last 5 years, our SMTC interns have walked about 1,000 miles of city streets to document every street frontage in terms of the creating a database on sidewalk conditions. This database contains information on conditions and other items in the city's right of way. And right now we're working with the city to deliver the data and discuss how to maintain that data set so it's a living document versus just a snapshot. We want to make sure that's something that the city can use moving forward for all their planning efforts. And then the Villages of Manoa, Fayetteville, and Manlius Bicycle and Pedestrian Connection Study, which is an incredibly long name. We do need to work on shortening our names for these studies. That held its final public meeting in August to discuss draft improvement recommendations and concepts along nearly a dozen study corridors. This really focused on-road bike facilities between the three villages. The draft bound report is currently under review by the Site Advisory Committee, and it will be presented at our next planning and policy, probably sometime in the winter. Some of our ongoing projects that still have a ways to go before they're completed. We have a Route 57 complete street study that's really just kicking off right now. Our consultant for that study is completing existing conditions, and we just launched a project website, including an interactive map and public survey. The idea with this interactive map is for you to kind of go along the corridor that we're currently studying and identify areas along that where you experience conflicts as a pedestrian or cyclist on that Route 57 corridor. The first public meeting is coming up soon on November 19th at Liverpool High School, and the map and survey will be open until November 30th. So for Safe Routes to School, we have done a previous study like this for the city of Syracuse, creating a guidebook on how to develop a Safe Routes to School program for different schools within the city. So now we're taking that and looking at it at a countywide basis. The study is scoped to guide 1 or 2 school communities through the process. SMTC staff have conducted a suitability analysis to determine which school communities outside the city might be best suited for this type of program. Some schools are very much disconnected from a pedestrian network, so those ones might not be ideal to start this program with, but ideally this will create a process that other schools can follow in the future. So SMTC staff have contacted the most suitable schools and have begun conversations to figure out interest and availability with those communities. For community streets, which is what we're going to be talking about today, we are currently working on adjustments for the program. Looking ahead to year number 2, we will have more details on that in the coming weeks. We're still finalizing how we want to open it up for projects, but that should be coming soon. And I hope that hearing our project sponsors from this year talk about their experiences will kind of get other people thinking about how they might be able to come up with a project idea for the second year. And then we are also assisting with some project management. These 2 studies are grants that were received by Onondaga County and the city of Syracuse, and then SMTC staff is assisting managing those grants as they progress. That's the Safe Streets for All action plan with Onondaga County and the Reconnecting Communities pilot program with the city of Syracuse. Both of these have been scoped and are out with RFP, so they haven't fully kicked off yet, but they're in the works. All right, so at this point, I would like to turn to our member agencies to give a brief update on some of the things that they're working on, some of the changes that we might be seeing in our region related to bike and pedestrian infrastructure. So how about we'll start with Julie at NISDOT.
Okay, can you guys hear me all right?
Yep.
Great, okay. So I looked at my notes for what we talked about the last time, and when we met in March before, we were kind of in the middle of reviewing and rating applications for our transportation alternatives program. So those awards came out in June. Relevant to the SMTC area, we had 4 awards. 2 for the city of Syracuse, both a little over $3 million. One's for the Inner Harbor area to complement the Empire State Trail and do sidewalk improvements. The other city project was the West Side Trail. I believe this is part of the study that SMTC did and finished up earlier this spring, where they identified a trail route. So good job, it got funded. We also had a project in the village of Solvay where they're making some improvements on Belle Isle Road and kind of reorienting the Empire State Trail a little bit, because I think they're looking at making that road a through street that connects, and it wasn't like that when they originally designed the trail. And the other one, not so much for transportation alternatives, but Centro received $5 million to purchase heavy duty buses that are electric and hydrogen fuel cells. So that'll be an air quality improvement. I And then the only other thing I want to talk about that NISDOT's kind of working on now is we have our active transportation strategic plan that's being worked on. I think I brought it up maybe last year here in this group. It was on pause for a little while. But now it's moving along again, and I think it's still trying to keep the original schedule of completing it next summer. So I'll put a link in the chat here when I get done talking. But we have a website up for the plan. There's like a link where you can click on to get involved if you want to submit some like comments or things you'd like to see, or be added to like a mailing list for future updates. But overall, the strategic plan is working on like looking at goal setting and strategies. It's a way to measure our progress as we move forward with active transportation kind of being more of a priority. We're kind of trying to figure out how we're going to integrate it into our state system as it is now. We're going to be doing some policy guidance on our own projects and programs, and make some more specific recommendations for like conceptual designs, how we would do planning for these kinds of facilities, and construction and maintenance as we go forward. So that's it for me.
All right, thank you. How about we go to Bren at Central?
Hey there. We have a couple things going on as well. I say a couple. I'm fully joking. We have a ton of things going on, but relevant to y'all, we have our BRT, which you've probably heard about. We talked about it, and we worked with SMTC with our Exploring Tomorrow's Transit public outreach. So BRT is moving forward. And our next step, actually, we had a system redesign meeting earlier this week, our kickoff meeting internally, which means that we're looking at all of Onondaga County as a whole and saying, what works, what doesn't work, how do we make it more efficient? So we looked at our BRT route, and we know that we want those lines, it's an X in the middle of the city. We want those lines to be running every 12 to 15 minutes. But those lines running every 12 to 15 minutes, and the rest of the routes are still running every 4 minutes, it isn't super efficient if you want to leave those lines, right? So that's where system redesign comes in. This will be about a year and a half process where the public outreach element will start this winter. We'll be reaching back out to the communities that we've already been talking to, and bringing ideas of what we think the system should look like. So in this system redesign, we're obviously looking at our big buses, but we're also looking at an on-demand system. We started an on-demand system about 6 months ago in Rome, and it is doing really, really well. It's called our Move buses. It's great, actually. So when we did the system redesign in Rome, we went from 6 fixed routes down to 3. We realized that we could streamline the system by reducing our routes down to 3 fixed routes, and then we replaced the rest of the system with on-demand. And what we've seen in the last month is that we now have more riders on those 3 routes than we did 6 months ago with 6. So we made them more efficient, we made them more frequent, and we supplemented with this other smaller bus. So these on-demand vehicles will be able to, when they come to Syracuse, maybe in 2026, we'll be able to, think Uber bus. You can get on an app, or you can call our customer service line and schedule the bus. You can schedule as soon as 5 minutes from now, or as far back as I think it's like a week. You can schedule a week out, and it just helps us balance out, right? It's feeding into our bigger lines, and in Rome we put it in areas that are less dense, so less ridership, but we still wanted to make sure that those residents had bus service. So it's really working in Rome. Super excited. As look in Syracuse, we're going to consider, again, this on-demand system. We're looking at the big buses. We're looking at some commuter routes, especially thinking about Micron and some of these new businesses that are coming in. How do we get folks directly into those locations, possibly without going to the hub? but going directly there from some of our locations, and also thinking about our bike share system. We expanded the city's bike share system so that we have it in some areas outside of the city limits, but where else would it be appropriate to bump that out and allow those rides to be continuous through the region. So those are the things that we're thinking about in our system redesign. Again, it's going to be really exciting. We're going to have a bunch of public and stakeholder outreach starting this winter. And so watch out for those announcements and come and meet us out in your neighborhood so you can talk to us about public transit.
All right. No, thank you. Thank you, Bren. Like, that's exciting to hear about. I know we were talking earlier today about some of the BRT stuff, so I'm excited to talk more about the system redesign effort too. So, oh, sorry.
No, that's, I was just going to say, so much going on. All good things.
I know. All good things. I love it. So we don't have anyone representing the city on the call right now. They do have, they had a conflict, so they weren't able to attend, but they wanted to send over a couple of things that they wanted to highlight for us. The major update is that the recent bid package for the BRIGHT projects, for the installation of them was awarded. And they're currently in coordination for potential fall or early spring installation. So these projects include bike lanes and bike infrastructure on Burnett, Coldbrook, Grant Boulevard, Holly Green to Eastwood, Lemoyne, and Fayette Street West. So those are the 5 different corridors that they're looking at installation this upcoming fall and spring. They did want to highlight that they do have they have a website where you can track these projects and get a little bit more information. Megan, can you throw that in the chat for everyone? There'll be several miles of new bicycle facilities, including bike lanes and neighborhood greenways with traffic calming. So each one's a little bit different, but check that website and you'll be able to see what each one entails. Let me go back. I think that's up for all the updates. Oh, and thank you, Julie, for throwing in that TAP CMAQ piece. Let me share my screen again. All right. All right, so now we're going to move into our main presentation for this afternoon, which is hearing from our Community Streets project sponsors, Frank Cetera from El Chemical Nursery, Lee Kennard from Ed Smith PTO, and Nicole Watts from Hope Print. Each of them have done different projects. Some of them, one of them, I will say, Ed Smith PTO has not been able to install their project yet, but they will be doing that very early in the spring. There are some conflicts with a lot of utility work on the east side, but we want to hear what kind of inspired their project ideas and what they're hoping to get out of everything. And then for the project sponsors who were able to go all the way through and install their projects, what they learned from it, and hopefully some successes that they've noticed. So I'll first turn to Frank Cetera for El Chemical Nursery. We're just gonna go kind of through all 3. I wanted to throw up some pictures from the installation process of that. Frank, if you have any other photos or anything you want to share, let me know, but I want to give people a sense of what your project looked like.
Yeah. Is it possible to give me sharing? There are a couple that I would want to put up on here as I go through. In any case, the El Chemical Nursery is a really grassroots not-for-profit that focuses on sort of micro community interventions, a kind of a lot at a time or a block at a time, really is what we've done over, which really led us to consider this project as feasible for our mission and to look at how we can not only affect mostly what we've done in the past is worked on things related to stewardship of green spaces, but a couple years ago we got involved with transit to a degree by opening up a free community bicycle workshop on the near west side. And so we spent more time thinking about and talking about roadways and street traffic and things like that. And this really was an opportunity for us to put some of that into motion and test some of it out. And we had a great time doing it. We accomplished what we set out to do in regards to the installations on the two blocks of Ontario and Otisco, Ontario and Gifford. I originally also thought that we would do Ontario and Marcellus. There were multiple things that came to bear there. One is that the city was recurbing and repaving that whole street, and they're still working on it. At this date in October, they started it sometime in the spring or early summer, right? So that kind of knocked it off. The other thing I guess bears mentioning is that two people who live on that block or live on that corner decided that they would not want to have this kind of thing outside of their house. And, you know, they felt that it was, excuse the parlance, a little too ghetto. Um, some of the installations that we were planning, like the tire planters, for instance. And, if you saw in the picture there that was up a minute ago from Thomas, what the original tire planters looked like. But now you can see that, after they've had a chance to flesh out a little bit. Yeah, you can see down in the bottom middle there that it didn't look so great. And, after a couple months, a couple of weeks to months, obviously the plants bloom, they flower, they look a lot better. We didn't have funds to, just buy mature plants to put right into these tire planters, and we use things from our propagation efforts. And so that was, an interesting kind of component of this. The street painting itself turned out really well, as you saw, but I just mentioned in regards to this broader scope that we have of placemaking, place markers, art and things like that, and lot stewardship. The days of the day of the installation, we needed every minute that we had, and every volunteer that we had. I don't remember how many we had, maybe around 12 plus, in 12 to 14, in that range. And we worked from the beginning until the very end of the sort of time frame that we had set out. That included the striping of the crosswalks, the painting of the interior of the crosswalks, the painting and building of the tire planters, and the placing them, and the painting, or the planting of the plants in them, and then the painting of the bump outs, and the artistic work that was included in those, as well as the full painting of a temporary crosswalk that had not been there before at Ontario and Gifford. So that was the white striping and the infill painting of that as well. It was a lot. It was a lot of work for maybe a little reward in the long term. We'll see how the city reacts to it in the future, and what kind of results that we can maybe longer term see. I mentioned the one end of Ontario Street where the neighbors there were like, we don't like this kind of thing. The other end of the street, corner of Ontario and Gifford, they loved it. They loved, they're like, oh, we love the colors. It really brightens up this intersection. It really makes it look interesting, and so forth. And the tire planters, as well, like I said, turned out well in the end. I think Thomas and Megan, I don't know if we've gotten the information yet on the traffic speeds on Gifford, that we were able to measure some before the installation and after, but we may have some quantitative kind of data there, and then qualitatively, it's been pretty much positive responses from folks as well. And we were able to, and also, as far as from like a funding perspective, we're also able to leverage money from our local, from our West Side TNT, to provide money towards snacks and support for the volunteers who came that day, which wasn't available through the Prime grant for doing the work that we did on the installation there. So.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point that you brought up though, of that the neighbors down on Gifford Street where you actually did install it really enjoyed it and liked the colors. I think I think that kind of highlights people not being worried about something that they don't know what it's going to be, but once they see it and see how it actually presents itself in the neighborhood, they like it. And that's kind of the hope with this project is that as more people see these type of projects, that more people want to do them and want to see them in their neighborhoods. So it's good to see that the people who were immediately affected by it liked it. In terms of the data collection, we did do traffic counts prior to installation, and as well as we did one a couple weeks ago. We're still waiting for that data just to be processed from our count provider, count consultant. So we will have that soon. But our initial counts did show some people, handful of people, knuckleheads who are speeding to test out how fast they can go probably down the street. So we're hoping to see that some of that was curbed by this installation. But also it's good to highlight it's a placemaking effort. It's trying to create a sense of community in this neighborhood as well.
Yeah, make it stand out, make it seem like it's not just a random anonymous sort of spot on the map.
Yeah. Did you have any other photos you want to share? I just pulled this back up just so people can see a little bit more, but
no, that's good. Yeah, no, I just was walking the other day and I saw the tire planters were looking good and I was like, oh yeah, these look much better than the ones
they do.
than when we planted them.
No, I'm glad to know that they're thriving within the planters. I know that was the first time you had really done a tire planter, and I knew we had zero experience to offer you on that too. So I'm glad that they've worked out.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
All right. I'll go to who do I have next on? I'll let Lee kind of give a little synopsis of his project. Again, theirs hasn't been installed yet, but it will hopefully be first thing in the spring. We're kind of letting Lee and that Smith PTO have first dibs on weekends as soon as spring hits, as soon as it's nice enough out to be able to get out there for a Saturday afternoon or Saturday morning or Sunday morning. But yeah, Lee, if you'd like to talk about your project.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right.
And Lee, you should be
Got
able
two-
to screen share now.
Thanks, Megan. Yeah,
Yep.
I saw that. Thank you very much. So I'm a parent with the Ed Smith PTO. We wanted to just mention a little bit. Oh, wait, I'm sharing the wrong thing. There we go.
Okay.
I got used to Zoom and then I forgot how to use it because I stopped using it as much.
Mhm.
Just want to say a little bit. So Ed Smith is one of the school district's K-8 schools. It now has a little bit of pre-K, one per grade. It's located in the university neighborhood of the city. It was a pioneer in inclusive education, and to this day, it remains. It's a wonderful school. I think it's economically diverse, linguistically diverse. It's one of the schools that has 30 different flags from different countries where the kids are from. It's also children from all over the city. It's racially diverse. It's a nice, very nice school. It's also a community school, so a little bit, about half or 40% of kids live within a mile and are classified as walkers by the school district. This doesn't necessarily mean they walk, but this means that most of them do, or maybe they get a ride part of the way. Traffic is a little crazy right near the school, so generally parents will drive to within a block or two and let their kids walk from there. So I put this little coyote here where the school is. This is on the city's east side. So you can see ESF here on the map. SU is up that direction too. Here's Berry Park, and this is Westcott. If you go north, you get to the Westcott Business District that I'm sure everyone's familiar with. And from the school at the corner of Lancaster and Broad, I've highlighted sort of an intersection in each direction. Not necessarily the closest one, but what I think would be kind of a critical intersection near the school for slowing speeds. These are all within the school zone. So the first, and the project has two intersections that we're addressing. The ones labeled 1 and 2. These circles are dreams for the future. We'd love to do more of this. So let me tell you. So like Tom said, the whole east side's been getting new gas lines. It's a disaster. So we decided to just wait until the spring to do the installation. So I'm still just going to talk about the plans. So the first intersection, I'm going to show you sort of a dream picture. This is an intersection in Germany. My family and I were there a couple summers ago. I was there for work, and we spent some time, and I took loads of pictures of intersections with really interesting traffic calming devices. And a lot of them, they literally plant trees in the middle of the streets. Some of them in the middle for traffic circles. This one, there's 4 trees, 1 at each corner. And the effect of it is it's like a curb extension. You can see it's a little bit harder to turn the corner if you're driving, which means you slow down to do so without crashing. And so the Community Streets Project I hope is a demonstration of this. And with the help of Tom and Megan, we have this sketch of the plan. So similar to the curb extension aspect of the previous project. So we're going to paint curb extensions at this intersection. This is one it's 2 blocks down from the school. We picked this intersection and not the one that's closer, because the one that's closer has had some traffic calming measures. It has it's had sharrows painted recently, and it had speed humps installed. So this is a way to sort of address another street. But this is inside the school zone. There's no stop signs at this intersection, and there's no crossing guard at this particular intersection. And most of the walking traffic is east-west. And this includes both children walking to school, but also walking to Berry Park for sports after school. That's along Broad Street in the other direction. I want to emphasize that all students take walking field trips, and in elementary grades, they walk to Berry Park a lot of times for end of school field day activities. And so this is not just for those of us who live right there in the neighborhood, but hopefully calming speeds for everybody. The second intersection is south. This is the one going toward Colvin, which, as we should all recognize, Colvin as sort of a high-speed east-west thoroughfare. And from Colvin, you can drive north on Lancaster. It's one of the main streets that brings people into the neighborhood from outside of the city or from South Campus, SU South Campus. And there's a long and awkward intersection. It's the first stop sign you see if you're driving up from Colvin. And the dream is, again, something as beautiful as this. This is also, let me see, where is that? That's also in Germany. And so the idea is to do a curb extension from the east side. And with the help of Tom and Megan, we decided on this particular location for the curb extension because this is where the parking lane is on the rest of the street. But on this particular stretch, there's no parking because it's inside an intersection. So there's nothing there. There's nothing allowed to be parked there. The hope is to narrow it somewhat. I'll just close. I didn't actually see what time I started, but I'll close here with so I mentioned this is a beautiful example. This is a less beautiful example. That's my son with the silly smile on his face. But you can see behind him this concrete barrier. And then you can see one across the street here. This is, a less beautiful, but I call it an effective example. I would think that cars don't want to run into those things. And so it gives pedestrians an extra step or two into the intersection where they're safe to be standing, looking both ways before crossing. And I think especially in school zones, this is important. I still walk my kids to school because I like to do it, but there's plenty of kids that walk without help, and even kids under 10 and so on. And I think it's important to do all that we can. And of course, I'm a parent in Ed Smith, so I'm thinking about those intersections. I dream of better infrastructure like this, and then if it works, it could be put elsewhere too. So I think that's all I've got. Thank you.
No, thank you, Lee. And yeah, it's a good point of using this as a demonstration of what you can do around a school, and hopefully other schools kind of get inspired by this idea and might be able to, maybe they propose a project in the future. I know Megan had done one at Huntington K through 8. So we definitely see the value in slowing speeds around schools and really making sure those key crossing distances are safer and more protected for everyone.
Yeah, I should have added one more thing about the experience. Was talking with Megan, and the project at Huntington was super exciting and inspiring. So I appreciated that.
All right, so we'll go now to our last project sponsor for Nicole Watts at Hope Print. To give you a little idea, Hope Print did a little bit different type of project, was much more of a placemaking and community building aspect of community streets. I'm sure she has a million photos to share because they programmed a ton of great activities throughout the summer. But just giving you some sense of during the installation day and some of the couple images we were able to get when we attended a couple of their activation events. But I'll turn it over to Nicole to share about her project, as well as if you want to share your screen, feel free to do so.
Beautiful. All right. Hello, everyone. So I'm going to first share my screen to just give a little bit of context. Hope Print has been working on Syracuse's north side for, we've been here for about 15 years now, since 2010. And we worked since 2019 with our neighbors to co-create a micro neighborhood reinvestment plan and proposal that's focused on the 35 block area that's closest to 81, kind of boundaried by Kirkpatrick to the north and Ash Street to the south, which is also where Franklin Elementary is. And we identified within that co-creation process of this reinvestment proposal a couple of intersections and thoroughfares that we really wanted to address under this kind of theme of public spaces for the public good. And one of those spaces was what we call the Lodi Triangle. That's what you see on your screen right now, is a kind of dream design. Right here, this main street you see is Lodi Street, which, as I think most of us know, kind of runs quite a distance through the city and runs right through the middle of our micro neighborhood area. There are a number of businesses. These yellow businesses, or yellow kind of colored in structures here, are all businesses that are right around it. And then this right here on the design, you can't quite see it because right here is North McBride Street. You see it continued in the rest of the picture here. This is actually currently a one-way street heading this direction. And it is right next to it is a small triangle, like traffic island park called Amos Park that is completely fenced in, and it belongs to Parks and Rec. And right here in this intersection, these are restaurants. This is Pyramids Halal, Mi Casita, Delaro's, and then this is Mike's Market and a Nepali Market. The Nepali Market doesn't have prepared food to go, but all the rest of them do. And the most seating is in Mi Casita, that has a couple of tables that are available. Otherwise, it's all grab and go food. And so as we've been having conversations about the community, one of the biggest things that people desired was a place where they could gather together safely to be able to make friends, build community, have their kids run around, etc. And so when this Community Streets project became available, a couple different folks reached out to me after having seen this proposal and said, this seems like a perfect opportunity for you to test this project. And I'll also put out there that we had gone to the city previously trying to activate just that park as that space, and had been told by various powers that be that we were not able to use the park if we couldn't close down that adjacent block, because it was deemed to be an unsafe location because of the traffic on all sides and the kind of small nature of the park, even though it was fenced in. And so this opportunity in our imagination was to close that block down without having to get all the neighbors' signatures like the block party permit requires you to do, which is quite a feat in a neighborhood like ours. And so we applied and were selected as one of the folks to do this, and then became the fun adventure of trying to actually get everything done. So I won't stay too long here. I want to focus on the good stuff, but we had a lot of challenges in that we kind of in hindsight, one of the things that we saw was that we were not only closing down a street, we were also utilizing a public park, and using both and created a whole new number of challenges that some of the other projects didn't have to deal with. And so, first of all, I was new to a lot of these permits. And so I thought I was just doing what I was supposed to do, and kind of like took a few steps out of turn. We learned very quickly who had and had not heard about the Community Streets project across city government. And so we had just a lot of communication challenges on the front end. And all the way up until about 10 days prior to installation, actually, I think it was 5 days prior to installation and 10 days prior to program launch, we still didn't have any permits. And so that was quite a challenging experience. And I think, though, that we have learned a lot. Tom and Megan and I have debriefed extensively about it, on how we could clean that up. And on the back end of it, I will say Mayor Walsh and a number of the staff from the neighborhood and business development came out to our final event, and there was lots of very positive energy and a desire to see more of this. And so we're really hopeful that some of the hiccups that we encountered, that we were able to be the guinea pigs that help clear them, not only for our own future work, but also for other people who are looking to do this. So a little bit of the process of what we did. So once we did get the permit, we shut the street down on a Saturday to do the installation. The street mural was designed by some of our women who are refugee and New American women that just worked together in an art therapy group to be able to design it. And our lead artist, Daniela Nikolowski, basically blew it up into a mural. A number of those women and artists and our CNY work students and some volunteers all came together to paint on that day, and we were able to finish it before we even we still had time left to when we had closed the street down, thankfully, before it was done. And it started raining like almost right away. So we were very glad that we got it all done. And it's still looking pretty good. There. It was very, very vibrant. It doesn't quite have as much vibrancy, but still right there on that intersection. So this is on that one-way street that I was pointing out. And then just some glimpses of some of the things that we then did. The original proposal was to shut down that block for like temporarily for the summer, kind of testing out what you saw in that original picture of it being a long-term pedestrian plaza with kind of an unnecessary street right there. Because of some of the missteps that I took, not understanding all the dynamics at play, we kind of triggered the fire department to get real excited about us closing that street down. And so we were not able to permanently close it down. However, they did in the end. Shout out to Kevin Busa, who I saw get on, spent a whole lot of hours on the phone. I still owe him a margarita for helping us to get it all past the powers that be to be able to temporarily shut it down when we were actively using it for programming. So that's what we did. We used water barriers, flower boxes, DPW barriers to temporarily shut it down, kept those manned throughout. And we hosted weekly night markets, like pop-up farmers markets. And then we did a family night each week, including like this foam party, and lots of kids came out. And then we had Arts at the Triangle on Thursdays, where we had live music. We had a ballet performance. So we had a magician come out. So all different kinds of things. And then we grand finale'd with a summer finale event that included many of our local politicians. That almost all of them came. Congressman Williams, Mayor Walsh, our local council person, kind of state, federal, all over the place showed up, which was really encouraging because we were then able to express to them the importance of doing work like this in our communities and how there needs to be more funding and less red tape to make it all happen, and how grateful we were for the Community Streets project, and how, like, as we need to continue to allow these things to go forward a little bit more unleashed. So these are just some glimpses of kind of what that activation looked like. And we had a number of different residents come throughout just expressing to us that basically it had done exactly what they had been longing for. And we had lots of people saying the last week, but if this is shutting down, what am I going to do? Like, it had become kind of an anchor point to their life, especially those who had kids. And so we were grateful to be able to do it. We truly couldn't have done it without the Community Streets project. Because of the kind of the way that the systems have been set up. We're hopeful to continue to do not only in this location, but other work throughout our micro neighborhood to do placemaking efforts and make the public spaces be truly for the public good into the future. And that's I think my presentation.
Oh, thank you, Nicole. And yeah, I know as we've talked about with each of you, this is a learning process on all sides, learning process for you all, for us, for the city, to understand how to make these type of projects work and what makes sense. So that's one of the things that we're hoping to address in future program years, is really understanding where the boundaries are of what can community streets accomplish and what are things that need to be accomplished outside of community streets. But I know that you work through a million different things in a short period of time, but it ended up being a really successful project. I know when I went to your final day with everyone there, it seemed like a really happening place. The music and the kids just playing in the foam, which is always a win for that. So it was great to see that space activated, and I hope that there's opportunities to do similar things like that in the future. I know we're still working out how to make those things happen, but I think I think we had a really good example here on how that works. But with all that, we want to turn this over to everyone who is in attendance for comments or questions. And this could be for our main presenters. It can be something for our member agencies that are still on the line. So if you have any comments or questions, you can either type them in the chat, or you can raise your hand and we'll ask you to unmute. So anything you guys have? No questions for the Community Streets group?
I'm not
No
getting anything in the
questions.
chat either.
No questions. Sorry, this is Neil. I'm actually somehow on Kevin's login here for the meeting. No questions, but I know we had the one delayed along Lancaster and Broad Street, and I just wanted to comment that grid's still not out of there, and I know that because I rolled my ankle running on Lancaster this morning in the dark, and I didn't see their bad pavement restorations. So I think that was the only one that we're still waiting on, but we had some great projects this year. I know it's the first year, a lot of hiccups, a lot of road bumps. Thanks everyone for sticking with it. Nicole, I know you guys had a lot of issues. Kevin did a lot of work behind the scenes to kind of smooth this stuff over with some of the departments who don't normally review these types of things, but inevitably got roped in because we needed another sort of whatever and another permit and another whatever. But I think this was a really big and important learning process for us here on the city side to just understand what it's like for the applicant to go through it, and hopefully we can smooth some of that over and make it a little easier in the coming years.
All right, so we do have, oh, did you want to read or?
You
We
go
do
ahead.
have
That's
we do
fine.
have a couple questions for you guys, for our participants. Would you prefer a faster feedback cycle on community streets? Peter, I don't know if you want to expand on what you mean by the feedback cycle, or
Well, just to say that you have a pretty good, I like your process is clear and straightforward, and it's based on an annual cycle, I'm guessing.
Meeting is muted.
You review the project gets initiated and it happens within a year.
the idea is that you would you propose the project in the winter and then be able to install it in the summer, spring, summer. But the feed, what exactly are you kind of looking for
Right.
on the feedback side?
I'm guessing what I'm thinking of where I've seen complete community streets in other communities, where they actually go out and in some cases survey the residents and ask them and collate their responses as guidance for the new, kind of, it becomes a cycle of feedback and then tweak the design so that the residents become co-designers. I don't know if that's possible here, but just at the line, or if that.
I can hop in to say that that was one of the things that they kind of required us to do in the application process, was to demonstrate that we had engaged. And then the permit process also kind of requires you to engage your neighbors in like the implementation and give feedback. They also required us to go to the TNT meeting in our local community for that feedback. So that was definitely built into the system, I would say. And we talked in our debrief, and I think it sounded like it was a common narrative among all of us that starting the process earlier and being alerted earlier, especially for first timers, but I think across the board, would have been helpful, because we kind of found out that we were selected when things for spring and summer were kind of already in motion. So I think that's the only kind of timing issue that we discussed, but I don't know if anybody else had other thoughts and feedback.
I mean, I think we accepted that we were kind of guinea pigs on this, and that the timing issues are ones that we hope will get worked out in the future. Things will get standardized, I mean, it's if somebody wants to paint a bump out or get a painted bump out at an intersection, it'll be a standard request kind of thing, right? And that's how I feel about it. As far as feedback goes from this individual implementation, I think that we have not had a chance yet as an organization to go out and recanvass, our all of our neighbors. I mentioned that we talked to a few of them who kind of they're folks that I talk to, right? I mean, I know these people on this corner, I know these people on this corner, but we also had gone around and, we had flyered, everybody within a multiple block radius and stuff. And so it would be nice to be able to go back out and do that. The only, we were able to do that also with assistance from the ESF AmeriCorps program and one of their student volunteers, which was very helpful for us, because that was, like a half-day thing at least to go out and flyer all of that. And then feedback from from SMTC and folks in regards to the effectiveness, what they see as the effectiveness of this, and if there's ways that we can showcase that effectiveness of it, I think would be helpful for that next round of applicants.
Yeah, and we're trying to. That's why we did do some traffic counts to get speeds, get traffic volumes. We are still waiting on that second batch of it, so we can compare between the two. And that's a piece of it. The safety aspect is a piece of it, the speed aspect. But again, that doesn't apply to every one of these projects, because like Nicole's project, it was much more about the placemaking. But that's also a piece of all the projects. It's placemaking. It's kind of reinvigorating a community in kind of a very simple way. And that's a little bit harder to measure, I will admit, but let me see if I saw some other Pine Hill Neighborhood Association.
Yeah, we can look into that one. There was a question about the permanency of the paint, and
Oh yeah.
yes, this was fully meant to be, these are temporary installations. experience with the one at Huntington was that the bump outs really seem to last because people aren't driving on them, or they shouldn't be. But the street murals, they definitely wear away after about a year. You know, once the plows get on them, they definitely wear away.
Yeah, and then UAlbany Planning Department. Yeah, we have talked to a few people who have been part of the Capital Roots program in the Albany area, as well as we've talked to some people with Reconnect Rochester, who does a similar type of program. It's a little bit more intricate than this program. In Rochester, they have a consultant who provides pro bono assistance, and they do a full design charrette to develop one intersection each year. There's a couple different approaches to it. That's a very much more involved version of it, and something that we talked about if that's what we want to do. But we kind of want to steer this more towards making sure more communities could be involved and doing kind of lower level projects versus the Reconnect Rochester model, which is very intensive and one intersection. There's value in both. This is just the approach that through discussions with the city made the most sense for us right now. But that's not saying that things could change in the future if the program develops it in its own way. Any other questions or comments for our presenters or for our member agencies?
I just want to add that I'm hearing an echo. I just want to add that it was really nice talking with Tom and Megan about this. Also, Kevin at different points, who I realize is not on this call actually. And I would encourage people to either think about doing one or to tell their friends who are concerned about, placemaking, traffic safety, whatever it is, to consider doing it. It can start with an email of interest.
Yeah, and again, we're hoping to come out with information in the coming weeks about year two, where hopefully we have solved some of the hiccups that we encountered on year one. But more details than that will come. So if you're on our email list, which I assume everyone on this call is, if you're on the vote, information about it will be coming out shortly to our email list. We have a Community Streets website, which will be updated with current information. It has not been updated since the spring, since the projects were selected, but we're going to be updating that shortly with all the new information once we kind of solidify the full process for this next year. But it'll be similar to this past year, but tweaks along the way to slowly improve it and make it a little bit cleaner and more efficient for everyone.
I just want to reiterate how great, I know there's like different municipalities on here, but I would strongly encourage like other people to not only consider participating, but doing this in your space. It was so huge to have an advocate navigating the municipality issues and to have Kevin and Neil already in the loop and like on the inside, so to speak, to be advocating on that end. I know our project truly wouldn't have been possible without that piece of it if we had tried to do it on our own. So this was a very worthwhile system. So cheers to any of you who participated in building it out, and encourage any of you who haven't been involved to do so.
We really appreciate all that feedback too. So it was a lot of work, but in the end, I think we are really happy with how these projects turned out, or will turn out, for the one that we still have to do.
Yes, that's one of the hiccups we need to solve, is having a better idea of how big national grid projects are in the future. Something that it's no one's fault, just bad timing on it, unfortunately. But you'll get fresh pavement in the spring to do all your painting, so that'll be the silver lining on it. All right, I mean, if we're not hearing any other questions, I think we can kind of wrap up for the day. We do want to, I forget, do we have a meeting evaluation for this, or do we want to put one together?
I don't have one for this, because honestly, only about 5 people seem to fill it out every time we
That's
do
true.
these meetings.
Well,
But I will say, if anyone has suggestions for what you would like the topic of our next meeting, which will probably be in January-ish. If you have suggestions for a speaker presentation you'd like to hear at that meeting, you can always reach out to us at contact@smtcmpo.org.
yeah, and please let us know what you want to hear. We want to gear these forums to each of you, and really make sure that we're keeping this on topics that interest you, or to give you a little bit more information about different important things that are happening in our region. So let us know. We have some ideas for our next one, but we'd be much happier to latch onto an idea that one of you guys come up with and make it a reality. Thank you for saying that over, Peter. The DEC air quality mapping. Again, anyone who's interested in that type of information, I know there's a lot of good work coming out of DEC. So definitely a good thing to check out. But Peter, yes.
Just to mention that tomorrow evening, from 6 to 8, there on the first link, there's DEC is hosting a webinar. If you missed DEC's presentation in Syracuse about a week ago, they presented at the Galleries Central Library. They described their finding in Syracuse, and they also mentioned a grant program that's possible that you could actually use for street installations, I suppose. All you would have to do is show some before and after data that your street intervention reduced air pollution somehow. So I don't know if that's applicable, but
no, I think it's a good option. We haven't really we're hoping to in the future kind of broaden where funding can come from for these type of programs. So I think that's a good thing to highlight for the future.
And so there'll be a description tomorrow, or you can look on that page for more, the first one.
Okay, thank you. All right, if we're not hearing anything else, I think we're good to end this meeting. Again, thank you all for joining us, and be on the lookout for information for year 2 of Community Streets. So thank you.